Today, we're rewinding to some of our most thought-provoking episodes around AI in marketing, revolution or hype. As artificial intelligence continues to reshape our approach to marketing, let's revisit the debate on whether AI is truly transforming the industry or if it's just another overhyped trend. Stay tuned as we look at current thinking and explore the real impact of AI on today's marketing strategies and ways of working. Welcome to Contrary to Popular Opinion, a podcast hosted by Vujade Digital. In each episode, we bring you provocative topics and novel perspectives around leadership, business, and marketing that defy the norms because exponential growth demands unconventional thinking and visionary action. So open your mind and let's get into this week's episode.
So as you know, I've gotten off sort of the conference circuit, and AI's 75% of every topic that comes up. It's ubiquitous across the board. Yeah, I mean, look, my opinion on it is, as you alluded to, it's not too dissimilar to what I saw early on with the programmatic platforms. And I think it comes down to what's your objective? What do you want AI to do for you? Could AI give you greater efficiency and minimize workload and take smaller tasks off your plate and do things faster? Sure, if that's the direction you wanted to take it, I think there's possibility after a decent amount of investment in onboarding and learning. And these things aren't just magically off the shelf ready to go. They're getting closer and there's different uses. But I think there's huge investments to even get these things tested and implemented and onboarded and processes in place to use them, regardless of what you want to use them for. But if your objective is to try and save time and generate efficiency, I think it can be used that way to a certain degree. If your objective is what I think it should be, which is how do you do better work because of AI? How do you offboard some lower end tasks to free up time for higher end tasks? But more importantly, how do you gain access to more information, or how do you unlock the potential of large data sets because you can use AI to analyze and tap into them, whereas you may not have been able to before? And that's why my opinion shifts towards AI actually is adding to the workload, and it's creating more time and energy and expertise demands. Because if you use it for what it should be, which is making things better, it's actually bringing to the table a lot more information, a lot more access to information. It's the ability to look at data sets and dive deeper and segment in greater and overlay correlation and see visual dips. We've had the example where I went to our analytics team, and historically, if I wanted them to plot out two competing data sets, not knowing what I would get when I did that, that was a lot of time. It might take them a day or two to go plot that out, only to find out, no, it's not actually telling me anything useful, or it's not giving me what I want. So I had to debate, should I even spend the time doing that and researching that data before I know if it's valuable? Do I have that bandwidth? Versus now I can have AI say, hey, plot that out. It's a lot faster, maybe takes 30 minutes or an hour to plot it out. Then it points us in the direction of, okay, there's something meaningful here. Now let's dig deeper and see what it means, or what should we do about it? Or no, there's nothing meaningful there, and move on to the next thing. So again, it empowers you to do more and to uncover more and to leverage data more. But I would argue that with greater power comes greater responsibility, right? The more you know, the more access to data you have, the more you actually should now need to do with that. Whereas before, you couldn't use it because it wasn't really usable for you. You could only use it to a degree, so you could kind of skip by it a little bit more. So again, I think it's a matter of point of view and a matter of perspective and a matter of objective and what you want it to do for you. And again, I lean on the side of use things for the greater good versus the simple, easier, faster, cheaper. But that's just how I've always looked at things.
Yeah, well, the clients that hire us are going to expect us to be able to do things quicker, and quicker seems to always equate to cheaper. And again, from what I've seen, that's absolutely not going to be the case. Again, there's just trivial tasks that might be expedited because of your example. We can now use a large language model, AI software over the top of a BigQuery data set, and then go that's containing media performance data, and go in there and prompt it to give you a slice of information relative to a data set that would have taken our analytics team 2 days to code and write and query a database. Now they can potentially set that up to do that within seconds or minutes. Okay, that's great. But now all of a sudden you just have access to more information, which means you got to do more work with it. It's the ease of getting that question answered all of a sudden solved some mystery problem quicker. But before you jump in, I think what it's now, and another example of this would be the tool that we're testing where it's possible to query ad media data for the purposes of then using the prompts to maybe change advertising copy or a targeting strategy or an audience or a persona. Personas are a whole nother topic I want to get into with and debate because you don't believe in them in the traditional aspect. But think about that for a second, right? So we talked about this. You saw the tool, but your comment was, well, that's not going to change how media people should plan or buy media. And let's debate that. Why do you think that's not the case?
I want to address one thing that you said first, which is, again, it's a matter of what do you want out of the tool, right? So when you talk about a client's expectation potentially being that should be cheaper and faster, it could be. But is that because do you want us using the AI tool to write the insights for us, right? Say, analyze this set of data and give me insights on how my social media campaign's doing. As the client, do you want the AI output of that? In which case, faster, easier, much better. Or would you rather us use the AI to compare sets of data, dig a little bit deeper, compare it in, uncover more information, then have it highlight something that we couldn't see just easily looking at it, dive in deeper and say, okay, well, why is that drop happening? Or why is that increase? What does that mean? Spend a little bit of time researching it because it pointed us in a direction. And then the report you get is that much more robust and well thought out because the AI gave us insight and visibility that we didn't otherwise have, but we still had to spend the time figuring out, well, what does that mean? What's behind this? What do we do about it? So again, what do you want out of it? Do you want AI to just be prompted to say, write me some social media insights on this campaign? Or do you want it to empower your people to see things they couldn't otherwise see and therefore give you a much better, deeper analysis? Again, it's outcomes in it. Can it be cheaper? Yes. Should it be cheaper? Probably not the best use. Going back to what you said, or what you asked before, which is, how are we looking at, is it actually changing the way that you run media? And again, my initial argument is it all depends on your starting point. If you're working with people or a team or things that are already doing things the right way for the right reasons, then it should not fundamentally change what they're doing. They should already be thinking about audience segmentation and user journeys and message impact and all that. It should enhance what they're doing and allow them to do what they're doing better, but it should not change what they're doing. Where it would change what they're doing is if they're not going to that degree, if they're cookie cuttering media plans and just rinsing and repeating and pulling the levers and letting the platform algorithms do the work and it's a set it and forget it type structure. Now the automation takes over and does more than what the standard out of the box placements can do. So now, yes, that is changing. It's identifying audiences. It's doing things that I would argue should already have been part of the process if the team was doing a good job in there. So again, what is your starting point? Is it enhancing and making better media decisions from a pretty basic media execution? Probably. Is it doing things that a good, solid media team should already have been being done differently? No, that's part of what a good media buyer and planner should be thinking about doing. What it should be doing for them is giving them greater capacity to go deeper and to uncover things that they may not, from a single human perspective, been able to go as far with or have the same capacity. So again, it's starting point perspective.
But there is a perspective out there that AI is smarter than humans. So there are people out there that believe, and the AI software companies are out there pitching and trying to sell their wares that the AI can make better, smarter, faster decisions than a human can. And I would contend that no, it can't, because it's not capable of detecting nuance within potential data sets, or the fact that maybe AI doesn't know your client and doesn't understand that contextually the product they're selling is subject to maybe some sort of, like in the healthcare industry, maybe subject to some sort of HIPAA regulation, and the AI can't add that nuance to it. So I don't know that I buy yet that it is going to make any of that stuff better. But the specific example that we saw was, it's one particular tool's capability was suggesting, after analyzing a bunch of ad data, media campaign data, that it could be queried and prompted to tell you the male image or the female image, the blue image or the red image, the image with people or the image without people, combined with copy written this way or that way, is by far, in a way, going to be your best performing sort of makeup of advertising. I don't know. Do you think that we're getting to the point where that kind of stuff's going to be valuable? And then if so, does that then make it easier for a media planner or buyer or even the creative side of the work more, I don't know, cookie cutter, more automated, somewhat artificially intelligent because the AI is telling us all that stuff and it's not us assessing that and determining that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this is where a lot of the debate is. I mean, my starting gut reaction is if you believe that the AI is smarter than the people, then I think you're working with the wrong people. I mean, again, the AI is capable of amazing things, but I don't see media as a zero-sum game. I don't see media as if I pull just the right levers, if it's the right weight and it's the right area, then it's input output. It's not zero-sum, do this, get that. It's at the end of the day, it's human psychology. It is influencing people's perceptions and desires and priorities and answering questions and all of that. And there's always been that debate about art versus science in media and marketing. And so I think that this very much allows a greater capacity to see things and uncover things and scale things and understand things. But at the end of the day, I think you're still, if you have people that are good at what they do, they're looking at it. They've been looking at it from that perspective. They've been saying, when I give a red ad versus a blue ad, do I see a difference? Is there a difference in user journey between higher income and lower income? Is rural versus suburban, large family, small family? Like a good media team has always been thinking about those things and understanding who is my client? What is their product? What drives people to want or not want this? What does it take to move the needle? Like a good team has already been doing those things and thinks about it that way. What AI should do is allow them to prove or disprove theories faster, to run tests better, to analyze data in different ways, to plot information in ways that visually unlocks things you couldn't otherwise see easily. Like it should be enhancing what a good team should already be doing. Again, if your team is zero sum saying, I use Facebook ads, I pick audiences, I buy ads and X happens, then yeah, this can take over that all day long. But if your team is not just a media buying team as a service, but is actually a marketing team that is thinking about what makes my client different, what makes their product better, what are the alternatives that my consumers can be buying, where are they spending time, how do they need to see a story, in what order, then again, that's human psychology and behavior and understanding of people that, I mean, I'm kind of hoping AI isn't at the point where they can understand people better than people do, at least yet. That's that whole scary thing if it ever gets to that age anyway. So,
yeah, I would agree. I'm going to put you on the spot. I don't know if you're familiar with Simon Sinek and his circle of why sort of model. Have you heard that before?
I have. I haven't actually read his stuff, but I'm familiar with his name. Yes.
Well, it's pretty simple. He uses Apple as the example. And you wouldn't just say that Apple builds computers. You would say Apple creates devices that enlighten people's lives and make it easier to do this and blah, blah, blah. And they just happen to build beautifully designed laptops. So given the product that you're in, and Kelly and I have had a sneak peek chance to see sort of what you're going to bring to market, and agencies are certainly going to be one of your customer profiles. Can you sort of hone in on the why, like given your background, working with agencies, working with the large holding companies, which by the way, I was on an AI seminar not too long ago. Somebody cited, I think it was from either S4 or Omnicom or WPP. I can't remember which one it was, but some of those groups have already 200 plus AI engineers working just as an innovation team. And when I think back to like my friends at Google who are like, oh yeah, we're supposed to dedicate 20% of our time to like non-billable work and coming up with something and innovating, I think a lot of good stuff's going to come out of that. Obviously, the smaller agencies, even the mid-size holding companies, the Stagwells, those kinds of groups aren't necessarily deploying the human labor capital and the finance to fund 200 plus engineers to build AI across their platforms. But you guys came up with a product, you and your partner came up with a product. You've seen the agency world from a lot of different viewpoints, from Google, from Twitter, from other viewpoints. What's the why behind the product that you guys are bringing to market without giving it away? But in your words, why is it going to exist? What do you think the value prop is for that? Is, again, I've seen it. It will save time, but I would argue it's not saving time for the sake of saving money. It's saving time so that people will be able to spend more time on the really important stuff, the insight curation, the story, the narrative, the information that this product will reveal. Getting that information saves time. Now I've got better information that I can use that saved time for to interpret and tell a story with. Why did you guys create this product?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That actually sparked a story. Yeah, the why is because we've been telling stories with data the same exact way since the beginning of my career. Nothing has changed when it comes to how we tell stories, and that typically involves PowerPoint decks, Google slide decks. That entire process has not changed in 20 plus years. And so I think AI is really going to help unlock that change and really revolutionize the way that we tell stories, whether that's with data or just how we present information to clients. Like that, the time is now to make that change. So that's really the why we created this company, because we truly believe that there is a need and a desire to have a product like this. So that's the why. The part that sparked the story is unlocking the ability for your teams or for agency teams to work on more strategic things and bring better value to their clients instead of just sitting there putting together information and data and slides. So back in 2002, right when I first started at Google, our team, we were either responsible for client support or there was a section of the team that was responsible for approving ads. And so a few of our engineers, the Google engineers, were shadowing some of my teammates and just observing and watching them do their job. And so one of them asked, "Why are you so interested in how I do my job?" And his response was, "Well, we're trying to automate your job." And so she was a little taken aback and she was like, "Well, wait a minute. You're trying to automate my job. Well, what does that mean for me? I won't have a job." And so Cheryl then, sat us all down. We had a big team meeting and she kind of explained, this is actually a good thing. You want these engineers to automate your job because right now you went to Stanford and you're just sitting there reviewing ads and approving, disapproving. Your skill set is so much more valuable if we can then have you spend more time with clients. And so I think that was really powerful because it's not that we're out of a job, it's just our job is going to change and we're going to be able to do it better. And so I think with a lot of these tools that are coming out now, especially with what we're working on, we're going to have that same experience where we're going to allow and empower people to actually spend their time doing more important work. That's really the vision. That's where I think, yes, on the surface, that 95% is really scary. It's a scary number. I don't necessarily believe that 95% is an accurate number, but I think it's just going to change. Like it's going to be different and change is uncomfortable sometimes. But I think if we just embrace it and understand like the power that it will unlock, I think that's just a good thing.
I disagree, and I totally disagree with the 95%, or at least I hope that's not the case. I think for Kelly and I, in our particular company, we are eager and hungry to roll up our sleeves and try things out and break them. And we talked about that earlier with you. Kelly's claim to fame is he ran the first, $1 million worth of ads on Facebook's self-serve ad platform and broke it because of the number of ad variations and things like that. But that's what his purpose was to stress test it and break it so they can figure out how to make it better. And so I think there are companies like ours that'll be eager to get under the hood with your product and stress test it and break it and then give you feedback and then iterate and make it better and break it again and iterate and make it better. But I don't know that every company in our space has the tolerance for that, the economic sort of capability to spend time doing those things. Again, doing that stuff isn't necessarily billable work. We have to have a level of curiosity and belief that, again, your product will save somebody's time of doing some sort of a task because now that task is being sort of done better and faster. And now they can spend their time on the output of that task. And that's really where the human mind can have more application and value than maybe the machine learning mind or the algorithmic mind or whatever. So I applaud this. I know that we're super excited to get under the hood of your product when we can, when you'll let us and play around under there. But that was sort of my final thoughts to that is we're not big. We're not a holding company. We're not spending all that money putting 200 engineers to do these things. But I do think it's important for companies to explore, have exploration, have curiosity, get in and do stuff, even if it's going to come at a cost, whether that's labor, billable time, whatever. We got to get there. And how else are we supposed to do better for our clients? Like you said, if we keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, somebody's going to come along and eat our lunch and we're going to lose a client as a result. And it's too hard to find them in the first place. So losing them is catastrophic for agencies. It's not great. So Kelly, final things you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, the POV you put there, I think is really interesting. And I think it leads to one of my last thoughts here, which is you've mentioned a few times that there's agencies that have 200 plus people that build these things out. And I've always made the argument that if there is something that is valuable and going to make a difference on a meaningful amount of client campaigns, that someone's going to be out there and someone's going to see it and they're going to build it and they're going to offer it to the market. And Joel, maybe you can validate the other side of the why, which is why you felt that there was an opportunity in the market to create a business and a company with monetization that people would pay for and that there's a viable economic side of things to build out what it is you're building out. And after you answer that, I'll sort of go into kind of what my last thought is around the comment that I just made.
Well, let me add to that question too, just before you answer, Jill. With your background, you could have got a job anywhere. You could qualify for any C-suite level position in any tech company anywhere in the world and probably make a whole lot of money doing that. Part B to Kelly's question is, why did you take this on? Like, what do you believe in so much about just the category itself, the product itself? I'd love to know. I mean, Kelly and I jumped off a cliff once to start this company, and you're kind of doing the same thing. So talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think for me, when I started doing this, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? I think there's a certain satisfaction of having a vision or a dream and then actually making it happen and bringing it to reality. And so, for a long time, I've had a lot of admiration for entrepreneurship. I love Shark Tank. Like, I loved being at Google early because your work made a difference. And there's something very satisfying to see the impact that you have, like, right away with a smaller company, as opposed to, sure, yeah, larger companies are great in their own way. But for me, it's more personally rewarding to try and bring an idea to life, and an idea that we're hearing lots of validation from all sorts of prospective clients. Like, they want this, they need it, and they're excited for it. There's no better feeling when somebody tells you what you're working on and what you're building is actually going to make a difference in what they're working on and what they're bringing to their clients. And so we rely on partners like you to help us, like, give us that feedback, like, what is working, what is not working, and is it going to be perfect right out the gate? Of course not. But with the technology that's out there and the team that we have, like, it is going to be a phenomenal product. We are so excited. And to me, like, yes, of course, like, I could go get a job anywhere, but for me personally, like, this is incredibly rewarding and I just love it. At the end of the day, I just love it.
So I think, again, I'm glad you answered the way that you did. It set me up for what I wanted to go to with this, which is hearing the reason and the vision that you saw. It validates that there are people out there that see an opportunity in the market, see a value proposition, and can kind of dive in and put all their focus into building that. I think from our perspective on the agency side, the way that I look at the opportunity is validated by that, in that you can go hire 200 engineers and build all this stuff and go all in it as a part of your company or department. But then I see that as you being in the business of selling something, because you've made all these huge investments and now you have to monetize it and you have to recoup that and you have to force that in. And now you have to push that on your clients and you really have to find opportunities for it. I see us as an agency in the business of solving client problems. And by positioning ourselves that way, rather than saying, hey, we spend all this money to build things, we need to make sure people buy and spend on it. We can go to our clients and say, okay, for this client, for client A or client B or client C, they have a unique need. They have something that they need to solve for and challenge for. We can then go to the market under the belief that there are great teams like you who have spent the time, who have seen the opportunity and said, I can solve for that. And we can be the experts that identify it and vet it. And quite frankly, can find something that is a starting point that we can push and evolve into a perfect solution for our client. Because I'll be honest, almost every time we've used a new tool and we've actually dove in, we don't tend to use it directly how it was built or out of the box. We tend to see an opportunity and say, this is really great. If we tweaked it in this way and that way, and could we do this and would this be possible? And we have a team that says, yeah, we could do that. Then we get to something great. And that's where I see a big opportunity as an agency is, can we be in the business of solving our clients' problems by having our fingers on the pulse, having great connections and relationships, being curious, spending the time to talk to teams, be in the know, and when we hear a problem, understand, okay, hey, we know of something. Let's go plug this in. Let's solve this. And let's create something that's really, really good for this client and what they need, not let's go find a bunch of people that we can have write a check for what we bought and what we felt is singularly valuable to the market. And so again, hearing that why you're doing it and knowing that you are not the only person, like there are people who have these great technologies and these passions and these tools that we can tap into versus being so narrowly focused on what we think is the one thing to solve everyone's problem. And so I think that's really helpful.
As a chief marketing officer, a fractional chief marketing officer, if you were in a pure play, you got hired, salary, full-time role, and let's say a mid to larger size brand that's got good size marketing budget, you can hire agencies, you have that kind of power. What do you think is on the mind of a CMO at that level today relative to AI or any of the other major challenges that are happening? And you can pick any kind of agency type, but maybe whatever you think is a priority. What do you think agencies should be doing to provide the greatest value to the CMO today?
Well, I think that there's a tremendous amount of value in looking at the most boring problems you can solve and tackling those first. And this is where I think AI can excel often in underappreciated ways. For instance, like if you look at AI's role in knowledge management, clearly need some systems in place that protect the privacy of your work product, of employee data, customer data. So all these things, let's assume you've had your CIO, CTO, anyone relevant, vet the hell out of any of the partners you're working with, and you've got those privacy and security checks in place, and you probably do if you're at a mid-size or larger company. Great. Okay. Now, how to use them, for instance, in ways to have these knowledge repositories? How can, for instance, sales teams more easily access information that's buried somewhere in the marketing databases? Similarly, how can marketing teams find out what are the challenges that sales people are facing on their calls, that customer service representatives are facing, and go and dive into that? How can someone maybe it's someone who's at a front desk and is going and just sending out some office communications, how can they do this in a way that's on brand and have this so that there are ways to check things like this before even needing to show this to the CEO or whoever's going and approving these kinds of communications out there? How do you not just save a lot of time, but empower people and being able to access this very living organizational brain and then contribute to it? So I think all of this can be really motivating, that anyone can make their mark and also be able to access some far-flung piece of information and create ultimately like better work because it is more aligned with what that organization's all about. Like this kind of stuff as a baseline, to me, it's so boring and it's so important, and it can be transformative. And then, yes, later on, look at, okay, how do you do a generative AI video that's going to be your next Super Bowl campaign? Like that, give that a year or two, or just make it your last priority, not your first.
Yeah, well said. I mean, look, the back of the house stuff that you're talking about, that's functionally critical, right? To all the other stuff being able to pay off the investment, the marketing investments that are inevitably going to take place. If the back piece doesn't work, the front piece isn't going to work so well either. All right, so we can get close to wrapping up here. 2 things left for you. What are your final comments, words, anything you want to share on the AI Marketers Guild that you want people to know about? And then part B of that, I ask everyone, what is the last ad you remember seeing?
All right. Well, for AI Marketers Guild, we just love more voices, more diverse voices in every sense of the word. We want to be a place where just a lot of different kinds of folks, whether you know everything or nothing about AI, everything or nothing about marketing, agency, tech, brand, academia, journalists, like we want you as part of this. And even if you see like the kinds of speakers we've had on our YouTube channel, like, they're just incredible folks to get to learn from. And you can see this day to day in the community. As far as the last ads that I've seen, well, I guess I'm still on the tail end of just the frequency of ads from the Olympic sphere. Like I've never been, I don't know if I've ever been bombarded with this many TV ads, and also with very little frequency capping. I think especially those Google Gemini ads, I had that song in my head for weeks, and I'm like trying to escape some of that very, very low level trauma that comes from just all of these things on repeat by having Peacock on about 15 hours a day in my home.
I think I had the same exact experience, but I love the Olympics, so I was willing to just take it all.
Oh, yeah, it was worth it.
That's going to come in. So, all right, Kelly, I think you got final words you want to add in here as well?
Yeah, so I really wanted to think through, there's just one more thought that came to mind that I was curious about, and it's around the commercialization of AI. And this is something that I really struggle with. We've explored projects and products and building out and getting involved in things. And I think there's this big question on how protectable is training of an LLM and training of things and monetizable, because, you know, the R&D and the work that goes into it obviously has to have payoff on the back end. But we always have this debate on, is it, if you build it and you put all the time and energy in it, will AI almost come in and eat your lunch because it's trainable and then it's easy? And then that makes me question is, where does the expertise best lie? If you're a brand, is it worth the brand investing on their own and owning it? Is it worth them hiring an agency? And is it worth an agency building it and investing in it and being able to offer it to clients? Or is it worth a standalone AI company to build it and to license it out to the users? Because all three of them, I see a risk and a long-term commercialization challenge. And this is really where I'm curious is where is the economy around AI going to both sprout up and be sustainable long-term? And who can make the investments with the trust that they can yield the results long-term on that side? And I'm not expecting you to have a perfect answer for it, but I'm curious as to what your perspective is, because that's one of the hurdles and roadblocks that I really see to AI being able to become ubiquitous and served and less fragmented than it is right now.
My best answer isn't necessarily one I like, but one I think as to what's inevitable here. And that is, in short, the rich get richer. And in part, that's because the costs of getting all the data needed to go and train AI, these costs keep going up. For ChatGPT to go from 3.5 to 4 to 4.5 to 5, and then as those versions come up beyond that, then I don't know if it's exponentially higher, but it's going up a lot. I don't see how, I've worked for 2 of the 5 biggest agency holding companies. I don't see how any of them can keep up. And like, it sounds like a really good idea, but I feel like this is one of those things where, not unlike the devil's bargains that a lot of folks have had to make with Google and Meta and Amazon.
ChatGPT, the new Google and Meta, it sounds like.
Well, but they're all being funded by like the same folks anyway. And so any of these major AI engines, they've got the institutional big tech funding behind it, or it's coming from another country. And I don't think like everything has to be all US based, and we've got our own mixed bag of challenges here. But then you at least maybe have like a little bit more comfort level with the devil you know. I don't see a way to avoid what for many has been a devil's bargain with data for decades.
Yeah, it's a challenge that I see. I mean, we talk about all the time is we have these ideas on things that we could probably build. And I'm like, yeah, but is it going to be useful in 12, 18 months? Can we extract enough value there? Is it, well, you know, it's really, really hard to plan for that future. And if we're having that struggle, to your point, Todd's told me he's heard that these big holding companies will have 200 AI engineers. I'm like, wow, who's funding that? And are they ever going to see the return on that investment on that side of things? And what does that look like? And it just really makes me question what that reality of AI is going to be. And again, it's like everything. I see it incredibly fragmented right now, from startups to ChatGPT, huge things. And somewhere it's going to have to flatten out. But I feel like your perspective and seeing what you see is it's really valuable to understand what that might be, because I think we're all guessing where it's all going to land out.
Well, I think we'll also go in these waves where it's like one day a holding company has other considerations, right? Like they have their stock price. So one quarter having those 200 AI engineers now become something that boosts their stock price. Another quarter that could wind up being a hit on it. And so I think it's going to go in some of those waves.
A lot of expensive overhead to maintain. And yes, there was something published by one of the holdcos that said they had 200 and I think it was 68 engineers dedicated to their product development and product roadmap around AI and data management and stuff for the agency, for the holdco. So it's a lot of salaries or a lot of contractors to pay.
Thanks for listening to Contrary to Popular Opinion, where we challenge you to think independently, push the limits, and take uncommon action so you can achieve game-changing results in your business and your life. To stay up to date with our latest episodes, be sure to click the follow or subscribe button now. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.